Today in our studios is Dr. Chris Imafidon. Dr. Chris, you're very welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much.
First of all, very interestingly, not up to 50% of our 16-year-olds leave school with a grade C in English. In other words, they don't leave school literate. They can't actually read and write well. I think it's only about a fifth. That is what statistics say. Now, how can children, especially our youths, in school boost their English?
Read what they love. Don't insist that they read Shakespeare. If they love Louis Hamilton and want to read a book about their favorite fast car driver, if they are very, very happy with David Beckham, let them read any book on David Beckham. So let's forget about the method. Let's concentrate on the message. Because we are saying that the only way you can really be literate is if you read classical literature. Now, if some people do not have the love for the story or the aptitude for classical literature, we shouldn't leave them disadvantaged. And I would go ahead to suggest, if you're a parent out there, what you will need to do during the summer, for instance, to keep it ticking, is to ask whether they would like to read the newspaper and buy them any newspaper of their choice and ask them to pick up any story of their choice. I'm underlining the word any twice. It has to be their choice. So if they just want to read the sports pages, let them read the sports pages. But when they've finished reading it, ask them questions from it. Tell them to summarize it. That way, you're making them to look at words, look at the way words are stringed together, look at how words build images, and then look at how words are punctuated. So you are giving them a passage to read without you calling it a passage. They found the story. They found that it was of interest to them. They read the story, and then you are asking them comprehensive questions to test their comprehension of the story. So if you do that 3 times a week, it's been shown over and over again, especially if you do it during the summer, by the time they are back to school, their vocabulary will go up. It's not something that anybody can argue or debate. Because when you've seen one story, another story, a third story will go. And they also tell them now, if you really want to top it up, ask them to watch television programs that are related to what they've read. So if you've read about a football star, if there's any match or any summer event that involved that football star, or any documentary program on that football star, ask them to watch it and then summarize. They must write for you what they saw. They must rewrite for you what they read. And
that's actually learning comprehension now.
That's learning comprehension. And inbuilt into that is writing as well, some big degree of creative writing.
Definitely. Let's look at our counterparts in the Scandinavian countries now. It's really alarming, the rate that we have only 1/5 of our 16-year-olds graduating being literate. Is it the same in those countries as well? Do we experience the same thing there?
It isn't. If anything, you have to be trilingual if you were Scandinavian. So you don't have a choice. You have to learn English, because most of the information that you are going to be given at university level are all delivered in English. Most of the leading textbooks are written by Americans. So without any choice, you have to be literate in English if you were in Oslo, for instance, and you hope to go to a university. And then you have to be literate in your national language. And then you have to be literate in your mother tongue. So you don't have much choice. Most times, because of their connection with EU, they are insisting that you either learn French or German in addition to these other languages you've already learned. So the linguistic skills are acquired at a very young age. They start slightly earlier. They start teaching foreign language almost when formal education starts. In the UK, unlike the UK, we don't start formal second language until 11 at secondary school. And that's leaving it too late.
And it is not compulsory.
It's even not compulsory.
Now, would it make any difference if we make it compulsory, having a second language in our schools?
Definitely. I think if you don't see the need for something, the adults, people that have life experience, the government, the teachers, should be able to turn around and say, look, when I was a student, I learned only one language. Because of that, I cannot access Russian literature today in my field of interest. Because of that, I cannot access Chinese literature in my field of interest. So you're locking yourself up in the box. I think everybody that has ever traveled to another country sees the benefit of being able to be multilingual. So you should make it absolutely compulsory that just as you learned English, you should learn one other language. And I don't really see any sense in saying that because everybody speaks English, I don't need to speak any other person's language, because that's been the lame excuse. Even the Queen is bilingual. When the Queen goes to Canada, Quebec, she speaks fluent French to them. She reads all her speeches in French. So if the head of the English nation, and in fact the head of the Commonwealth, can see the need to be at least bilingual, I think the subjects should do likewise and at least avail themselves of the huge information that's available right now on the web. In Arabic, for instance. So if you don't speak or understand Arabic, you're locked away from the entire literature that's produced in, be it engineering, be it in medicine, be it in acting, that is produced in your field, but in a different language.
Now, from being literate for our 16-year-olds, let's go to our private universities. Now, the UK's first new private sector university college for more than 30 years has been announced by the university's Minister, David Willett. What are the implications of this on our educational system? Oh, this set the ball and the blood of the leaders of the university unions boiling, because they are saying there's a school of thought that believes, and very, very passionate about that, that really you shouldn't allow commercial players into education. You shouldn't allow any third party to come into education. That higher education should be the sole responsibilities of government. So no university should exist except that owned and operated by the government. So they argue against it. But what I would say, we have a potential crisis in September. There are going to be at least 160,000 students that have applied for places in university that will not get places. How do we unravel that bottleneck? If we don't have enough university places, I think creating more spaces, either in the independent sector or the charity sector, should be welcome, should be congratulated. Say, look, we have a problem with admissions. We can't get all our youths and all those that want to learn and study into university because we don't have enough space. And here comes a third party saying, yes, we want to be involved in your HE. I think we should welcome them in. I don't have any inhibitions, provided it is not seen as a cost-costing vehicle to reduce the budgets of universities, so that then you can allow students to be absorbed by the private sector. If you do it that way, then that's wrong. Because right now, the university budget has been cut by the government because we are under a very strained, a very tight economic times. So we want to reduce the budget as much as possible. So by reducing the budget, we are saying, yes, the university cannot employ as many lecturers as they would. They would not be able to take as many students as they would otherwise have. Therefore, we are in a mini crisis. And so just push the entire burden. The government shouldn't push the entire burden to the private sector, because the private sector has their own interests. Their interests may not always be the same as that of the government, just trying to raise trained workforce. So I'm happy with the intention. I want to watch the action and see whether we'll go down a slippery road of saying we want to have independent universities and the independent schools. And if we pull it back, at secondary school, there are independent schools, there are private operators in secondary schools. I don't see why we should be afraid of having them at HE. There are a lot of students out there and parents that are wondering what should they be doing from now so that their ward, or the students, get into university. And if they miss out on their places, what other options are there for them? This is one option. The second option is for you to review your choice of subjects and review your choice of location. If, for instance, you've applied to the University of Manchester, and for some strange reasons, you are not able to get into Manchester, are you going to insist that you get into Manchester? Or are you going to consider another university in Bristol? Or will you be prepared to travel down south to London? So are you ready to follow anywhere there might be vacancies? Or are you really going to pull back? So if I were you, I would review my location of study. I know some people, rightly so, are passionate about what they want to study, so they don't want to review what they want to study. So you want to stick to what you want to study, but you want to look for a different provider, you want to look for a second option, you want to look for a third option, and then you want to be able to look at the industry that is related to what you want to do and see whether you can do some volunteering work. Hopefully you can come back and then pick up your place when it all dies down. So 160,000 students may be missing places going into university in September. That's what statistics says. Yeah, that's a lot. You know, if you're a parent out there and you've got a child going in September, or a student, you're wondering what to do, send us an email to brunch@loveworldtv.co.uk. Now, fine art. A lot of people have gone to become artists because they think they are bad when it comes to math.